All right, so got an example here of marginal cost of capital schedule for Unilate. A couple of things that we need to remember here. This is from the previous slides. Common equity is 50%, preferred stock is 5%, and debt is 50%. No, I'm sorry, 45. So these have to add to 100. So the company plans to generate 30.5 million in retained earnings. They can borrow money in the following increments. I wrote over my slide here, but they anywhere from 1 to 54 million. The before tax cost of debt is 10%. Anything above 54 million is 11.85%. The Unilate in this case has two breakpoints. So they have one related to equity, or after the 30.5 million retained earnings is exhausted, you're going to have to issue additional stock that can increase the cost of equity. And then if the firm needs to issue more than 54 million, the cost of debt is going to increase. So the breakpoint for retained earnings is the 30.5 million divided by the percentage invested in common equity. So 30.5 million. So the total would be 61 million. That was actually shown in the slide, but not necessarily explained previously. And then with regard to debt, the breakpoint associated with debt would be the 54 million. The cap in debt that would be able to be issued at the lower rate. So that means that you divide that by the debt ratio, or the 45%. So 120 million in total funds would be the second breakpoint. So we have two breakpoints, 61 million and 120 million. So if we're within the weighted average cost of cap, within 61 million, the breakdown of funds. So if assuming we issue a total of 61 million, the 45% of that's going to be debt. So that means that's 27.5 million. We have a 40% tax rate. 5% of 61 million is 3,050,000. That's so 30.5 million is the common equity, which is add those up to get to 61 million. So the after tax cost of debt 6%. So 0.45 times 6% is 2.7. 0.05 times the investors' required rate of return on preferred stock of 11% is 0.55. 0.5 times the required cost of retained earnings of 13.5%. At 0.5 times 13.5 is 6.75. We add those up and we get our weighted average cost of capital of 10%. So then if we issue our 120 million, we're going to have our less than 120 million, 120 million or less. In this case, it's 120 million. So that's going to be the debt's not going to change as long as we're less than 120 million, but the preferred stock isn't either. So those don't change, but common equity goes up because that's in excess of the 30.5 million. So it goes up to 14.5. So that raises our weighted average cost of capital to 10.5%. So the next slide shows if we go above the the 120 million platform. So in this case, say we issued 120 million in new funds, so our cost of debt goes up to 11.85%. Multiply that by the 1 minus the marginal tax rate, that's 7.1. So the 7.1 times the 0.45 is 3.2. And add those up, then the weighted average cost of capital goes up to 11%. So the RDT changed because you issued debt greater than the 54 million. So that's how these problems work. So we'll finish our discussion of marginal cost of capital in the next lecture.